point to tidy up things. You notice that in the story Jesus sends out his disciples. They are not converted at this point. You know, he says later in the story, when thou art converted, strengthen your brethren. And I think he says that to Peter, doesn't he? Do you see the evangelist? Well, he hasn't got the full story. But he does go out and he does perform miracles. He's sent into the world. But we are not. We're available to anyone who's drawn to ask, those that have ears to hear. Oh yes. But we remain in the garden. We don't go out into the world to change the world. Come unto me, all who are laden, and how's it go? The heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And those who ask, we give. I mean spiritually now. We don't ram it down their throats. We're not out there on the street, knocking on every door. If you have ears to hear, then you can hear. I stand at the door and knock. They're the doors I knock on. And if you open, you too become part of the kingdom of heaven. In this Eden sense. Thank you, Dad. You see, we have the light. We're in the garden, knocking on the door that lets you in. If you open, and the garden floods into you, you become part of the garden. I don't mean this is 100% of the story, but it's certainly enough. Well, if you have ears to hear, bless you. Thank you, Dad. Oh, and you do have ears to hear. There's no way you would have stuck the distance of even this recording if you hadn't. Bless you. Thank you, Dad. It's as well to remember that they had seen Jesus but not known him. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And of course, if you don't know him, well, this is life eternal, to know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent. Do you see in John 17, he knows they trust that he's come from God. They believe this. But they don't know him yet. And that's what the Holy Spirit is going to do, of course, the Comforter. And he sends. And I mean, in a trivial way, of course, they won't benefit from the Holy Spirit while Jesus is still with them, because they look to him. And it's all a mystery, and of course a finite being, in this case Jesus in the story, is not the full immensity. endless presence of God. It's a representation, it's a story, it's a trace, it's a thought. But the Holy Spirit, who speaks only of the Father, not of himself, who will reveal what I've said unto you, that you might know God. This is life eternal, to know thee, the only true God. Bless you. And you are blessed. Thank you, Dad. Look, I'm a child of God, not a disciple, not an evangelist. Who are the most effective at relating to the kids in the school? The youngest teacher. You know, when I was 19 with this car that cost me £20, I mean, I related so well to the kids. I was a great success as a teacher. The headmistress couldn't believe it. She could send me into the most difficult class. And I wasn't a good teacher in 21st century sense either. I was very dominant. My goodness. But great fun. Do you see, those that can do and those that can't teach? I was not an adult, so I was teaching well. Full of ego, full of drive, full of fun and emotion, and they could relate to me because they're kids and I was just a big kid. You do the same, you know, with beach missions, you know, in the summer, Christian missions. You don't get the old fogies doing it from the church, the cupboard shapes. No, you give it to the children of the old fogies who are, you know, active teens. And they burst into the role and, you know, they're doing the Lord's work and they're shepherding all these kids and playing with them on the beach, and it's quite wonderful. It really is. Yes. It really is the case, you know. Those that can do and those that can't teach. The children of God who know God, they stay in the garden. There's no way they're going to risk being anywhere else. They want to be as aware of God and surrounded by the goodness of God as possible. The work is done by the disciples and the evangelists and the teachers and all that mob that Paul assembles into a church. And very good too. It's all part of what's being done outside in the garden. Outside of the garden, I mean. Not in the garden. We don't have organizations and roles in the garden. In heaven. We have it outside in the world. That's where you find organizations, companies, churches, governments, families. They're an organization, you see. It's not what the kingdom of heaven's about. In heaven, we are members of the heavenly host. You can think of it as a family or as a fellowship or as friends. But however you think of it, it's actually a staggering, wonderful equality. We are all friends with God. But we remind ourselves He is our eternal Heavenly Dad as well. Love you, Dad.